By the way, we are looking at changing the heating so we can converse and be warm at the same time.
That's good. Or cool.
Or cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's space.
That's right. Because we can't have COVID.
Maybe
and ice cream.
opening or closing the window, is that?
Yeah. That's how we're gonna get
That's how we're getting.
Okay.
Oh, I-
The executive session.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start up with the consent agenda. The recommended action is to approve the items below, which are included in the consent agenda. 4A minutes, 6A board goals and objectives approval for the 2023-24 school year, 6D resolution for the disposal of personal property, and 6E special education. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any changes, discussion? If not, then please vote. Hmm?
There was an error.
Oh. Did the vote thing go through? I have not received that.
Somebody's.
Mine said there was an error when that had been recorded.
Uh-oh. Drama already.
I just logged out.
Oh, it says not present at vote. Is everybody a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, 7 yes.
Okay. Next is for the good of the cause. Do we have any emails? Yes. Dripping off the email over there.
We do not.
Okay. Is anyone here going to speak for the good of the cause?
Yes.
All right, well, let me read my little speech here, and then it'll be your turn, Martha. The Board of Education encourages public participation on school-related matters at the board meetings to allow for public participation. The period not to exceed 30 minutes has been set aside at the beginning and end of board meetings. As a general rule, the public participation will be limited to 5 minutes total per speaker. Anyone who wants to speak shall state their name and sign the sheet. Comments should be in general in nature and should not involve concerns regarding specific employees in the district, as the board has a separate protocol for these matters. This is for the protection of school employees and to ensure due process rights in a public forum. Individuals wishing to raise a specific concern should follow the regulations outlined in policy 14.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. I have some handouts. I'm here to talk about the banking club, which begins tomorrow. Has everybody heard of the banking club? Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm thrilled. We have 29 students signed up. 2/3 of those are from Lake Placid, which is awesome. What I'm passing around is the curriculum and the budget. It's just one page.
Yeah, I want.
Mhm. The reason I'm doing this is that even though we haven't started and we haven't, it's like a helicopter and the blades are going around, but we haven't left the ground yet. But presuming that this works and the students learn good stuff about financial management, financial literacy, planning, budgeting, goal setting, and so forth, and they're each going to receive a small cash award at the end of the program. Assuming this all works, I hope that the school district would be able to continue this in some form or fashion in the future. Because I'm a volunteer, I'm just going to do it this one term. Are there any more budget sheets that haven't made it around yet? Oh, okay. Great. Also, I wanted to thank the Board of Ed, particularly people not on the Board of Ed, who are Tim and Dana, for making it possible for us to have the incredible transportation that is making this whole thing work. One of the stated objectives of this program is to get Lake Placid and Saranac Lake students hanging out together and meeting each other and socializing. one of the other objectives is to raise math scores among that cohort, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And the math scores among that cohort are already good. There's no problem that I could see. But they're going to go up, we hope, as a result of this program. So thank you for your help. And does anybody have any questions?
Martha, is there any possibility in the future, I know you already got a large amount of students, that there could be a session on a Saturday or something for those students that are in after-school sports that might not be able to participate in this?
There's so many options for the students who can't make it this time because of
Oh,
sports or
okay.
band. Someone else has to run it.
Okay,
Yeah, but
Okay.
absolutely, it could
Okay.
happen on the weekend.
no, it's a great concept. I think
Yeah.
teaching young children to save and how to budget and how to invest, it's a great idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
And Martha, who are your partners at Community Bank that we should be particularly mindful of in our appreciation?
Amy Oliveras and Liz Lawrence. And then at Tri-Lakes Federal Credit Union, it's Heather DeForest. And those three women have put this curriculum together themselves. These are good resources. Some of them come from Treasury, some of them come from Visa, some of them come from the banks themselves, and they are geared towards middle school students. But those three women really did a lot of work. Okay,
Any further
Thank you.
questions? Martha, when this wraps, when you guys are done, would you be willing to come and give us like a report and so we can put it on the agenda? And we'll give you your own time, more than 5 minutes. So that would
Well,
be
I'd
great.
be honored. Thank you.
And no disclaimer initially.
Yeah, no, those bossy.
thanks, everybody. Have a
Yeah.
good meeting.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Martha.
Okay, nothing in information for the public, so that brings us down to reports. School liaison report.
So, for those of you who don't know, I volunteered to be the district liaison to advocate for various, not necessarily policies, but changes that we would like to make in our district or to lobby for things that we need. So in the past, I was able to meet with Elise Stefanik in Albany, I don't know when it was, maybe 3 years ago, Chuck Schumer's office. And then I participated last week with Elise Stefanik's office again to lobby for some things that were important to our district. Sometimes it's really difficult to get into these meetings. You put your name in and for whatever reason, they limit it. For this time, I was one of a few people and I got to talk a lot, so it was great. The people that were there, it was John Daly from NYSBA and Matt DeLay from NYSBA that were there at the meeting. And then the representative for Elise Stefanik that day was Zach. Congressman Stefanik was in Washington that day. So she was not there even in a Zoom meeting to participate. So the topics that were brought up were Title I, which they generally Title I is for low-income families and 40% of the enrollment in order to do that. It tied into the free lunch program, which I talked about. Our district opted again this year to offer the free lunch program to students. I did say I did not know how sustainable it was in the future, and that was a very important issue as it was even with the NYSBA people. They did say that they were thinking of dropping the criteria from 40% down to 25% for the free and reduced lunch program. So that seemed to be kind of a hot topic. The other topic that was brought up was additional funding for English second language learner students. Here on a small level, we've already seen it in our district with students that are coming in that are not English speaking students that need additional services. But obviously exponentially in New York City, we all are aware of the number of students that they're getting in there that require a lot of services. So that was something else that was being lobbied for, was additional funding to help those students. That went into also the individual disability education program, the IDE. And again, a focus of that was, Colleen Skufta can attest to this, with speech services. I think from COVID, we're seeing it in the 3, 4, and 5-year-old age population because during COVID, those little children, all they saw was a mask on people's faces all day long. So their language development isn't quite there. So they're lobbying for additional funding in that group. They talked about the zero emission buses by 2027. Dana is well apprised on that issue. Zach from Stefanik's office did acknowledge that the North Country, we're in our own little bubble here, and that it could present much more difficulty for us to have these electric bus fleet out on the road, and it might require additional buses within the district in order to accommodate the climate that we have here compared to other areas in the state. So that was something that Elise Stefanik is currently bringing to the Ways and Means Committee, is the law that's supposed to take place, and who knows what will happen with that. The tax deduction, the SALT cap, that apparently, and again, Tim, whomever can correct me on any of this as I took my notes, but it expires in 2025. They want the cap to be increased on the SALT cap. SALT, the
State and local tax
deduction.
Yeah.
It's currently set a cap at 10,000 per year. It consisting of property taxes plus the state income or sales tax, but not both. And Elise is lobbying, Congressman Stefanik is lobbying with the Ways and Means Committee to have that raised up. Last thing they talked about was Title IIA, and they mentioned staffing shortages that are apparently prevalent across the state. I did advise them that we might be our own little island here, where we were fortunate to have full staffing in September, but the majority of the districts across the state are not in that. So they talked about ways to increase staffing, whether it be through professional development, maybe salaries, benefits, any of those things to increase the teacher population. So it was a really productive meeting. I felt fortunate to be able to participate again, and I'm hoping that, again, usually it's in the summertime when we have these meetings, but I do think it's great to also meet in person. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Colleen?
Did they take seriously the busing concerns with the electric buses? It was one of those things where they blew through and didn't think, because like you said, we are on our own little bubble here.
They are. There's a certain level that you're in, kind of like this utopia feeling that we're going to switch to electric busing and that the environment's all going to be wonderful again. But if you talk to anybody in the electric industry, they're going to tell you, guess how we make it? And not to mention, where are we plugging all of these buses in? And if you look at the state of California now, the issues they have in California with Governor Newsom saying that they don't have enough outlets or whatever, the charging stations. We have blackouts, we have everything. So it all sounds really good that, you know, we're proposing this in the state of New York, but if it really turns into fruition, who knows? And the cost of these buses, I don't know. They should be having a hybrid bus where it's gas and electric. But that's just my thought. But again, I think on paper it looks fun, but in reality, who knows?
It's a feel good thing.
Yeah, but again, it's all part of, I don't know. Anyway, that's another topic
It is.
politically, but
For another day.
but it's a good point, Ryan. I think they did acknowledge it. The NISBA gentleman acknowledged it more so than Stefanik's office did. You know, so I don't know. We'll
I
see
would just
what-
hate to be put in a situation where we're putting more burden on the school district and more burden on taxpayers to
Yeah.
comply with some law or mandate that where
And it could change. And they
we've seen
acknowledge
electric buses come for special events and they
Well,
like
it's
it's
not
under time, so.
it's not, but
No,
again,
no.
I mean, you have a
Part where
governor
they're
right
gonna
now.
die.
Yeah, well, you know.
We have a governor that may not be there in
Fair
2027.
enough.
She may be
Right.
replaced, and then this law or whatever they're suggesting could be repealed, but
Well, I mean, in a sense, it is a mandate because what the law says, starting in 2027, you can only get electric buses here in New York State.
If you buy new.
If you get a new one, yes. And then by 2035, your entire fleet has to be electric buses.
That'll change.
Yeah, I was talking to a superintendent yesterday, and whenever I see him, we end up talking about buses.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, we have a transportation plan already in place that if it still is ready to come to be at 2027, is their plan is they're gonna buy a whole bunch of diesel buses to get them,
Good.
through for the next 5 to 10 years. In essence, stock up before you cannot get them any longer.
I like
I'm like,
that.
yeah, that's probably what we're gonna do
I like that
too.
plan.
No, it's just, and who knows, as I said, it's just. On some level, so.
From my experience, a lot of the state level people know that it's different outside of like the major cities. I've gotten more than a few comments about like, yeah, like that's the rule, but. So I'm hopeful that when it comes to implementation, that, different
Geographical.
geographic differences, economic differences,
I think. we
regional
invite-
differences will be taken into effect, so.
I think we invite them, some of the policymakers in Albany to come up here in one of those 30 below mornings, so we're still open. Invite them to take a twirl down through the notch and around the countryside, see if they get back here. That's still
I
running.
drive bus.
We'll send them for
Yeah.
a hockey, Colleen, we'll send them for a hockey game up to Rouse's Point.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. And just hope that they,
Get back.
I don't know. So anyway, it was a great meeting. It was fun. And it was good to be able to talk about things. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Budget performance report.
Yes, this is this is for the month of August, really, starting back into the swing of showing these things. July is usually a quiet month. In fact, August is really quiet. So when you look at these, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because it's really very early in the process. On the revenue side, it's showing that, we have $17.3 million already. And that's in reality, what we do is once we know our tax levy and that's been approved, we actually book it as a receivable so that it shows that we have $17 million, but it's actually coming in still because in the end, by springtime, we're always made whole. So whoever doesn't pay by the deadline of early November, it gets reported to the county then does it, and then in the end, by April, the county makes all the districts whole. So that's why we book it that way, is because ultimately, that revenue is there, whether we get it physically between these next couple months or the rest of it comes in April. So that's why that shows that as being a revenue source already.
So to the extent that we don't receive it direct from the taxpayer, the county makes its own difference.
Correct. Yes, it's usually, I think last year was a little over $300,000. That ultimately, who didn't pay? And then the county writes us a check in April
And they go out.
and they go after it. They levy it and all that, and we're made whole. So that's why by mid-April, we have all of our property tax. We're good to go. For state, this is way too early in the cycle. And we talked about this. We really don't start seeing state aid until the turn of the year and then springtime. Same as federal stuff. That's really that kind of matters through. As Colleen was talking about, that's mainly for us, that's our Title I, our Title II funds. We do have some American Rescue Plan money left, a little over $200,000 that we will ultimately use. We have to expense it by September 2024 is the deadline for that. The CRESA, which was the ESSER 2, or the second one before ARP, that had to be expensed by September of this year. So the ARP, which was typically the bigger one, we got a little over 700,000, and that rounds has to be expensed. So there's a little over $200,000 left, $240,000 left in that. That we will ultimately tap into for this year as a revenue source. Expense side, kind of the same thing, really. We're just getting into it. What we're seeing is it's really more about salaries over the summertime. Staff is back. We're not really seeing that in its entirety because this is August. Staff won't come back until September. So this is really just our normal stuff. Every year we have our typical July 1 payments that we make, our bus leases, our yearly contracts that come up that we expense in July. It still says favorable across the board. this is a typical start to the year for our revenue and expenses. On a, visual side here, just kind of tap into, as we highlight, thus far in 2 months, we have generated, almost $59,000 in interest. And that's still mainly at the lower rates. And as I talked last meeting, we're in the process and we still haven't seen it yet in our reports because we're a month behind. But we've already transferred nearly $6 million of our cash into the NICLAS system. So we're going to start seeing that. But so this is really just, the conservative place that we've been holding our money, the ICS, Insured Cash Sweep, and generating $59,000 thus far. Questions on the budget performance?
Treasury report.
Treasury report, second meeting in a row. Again, we're trying to catch up here. I think we're finally caught up. Typically, this is the second meeting of the month stuff. With July being one meeting, that's why we had a treasury report last meeting, and this is it. Really not much to show you in terms of differently. You are going to see as we move forward, this document, this spreadsheet is going to change a little bit, and we're starting to change it. Betsy is working it up. If you, I'll focus on the right-hand side, you'll start seeing that we have NICLAS unrestricted and NICLAS reserves. So as we move our cash out of the Insured Cash Sweep into NICLAS, we're going to, we'll start showing that. So as we move forward, you'll start seeing that is where we're putting most of our free cash because of the yield. Right now, the yield there is a little over 5%. And our plan right now is to keep these. So if you look at it, our reserve accounts, EBLAR, tax sorcery, unemployment, they still show what they are. Those are already in NICLAS. And our goal is to keep the principal, if you will, the same. And monthly, because NICLAS we get monthly statements, whereas in ICS was quarterly. We're going to pull out the interest that we get every month out of these accounts and put them into another NICLAS sub-accounts just for interest, so that the interest is earning off the interest, and then keeping these specific funds as their principal so that it can remain clean. And then I think at the end of the year, we'll just move over the interest, how much interest we want to use as part of a revenue source. So we'll start seeing that as well. So that will be coming over the next couple of months. But also, I mean, we're still, you can see we've, our receipts, $269,000. It's like our cash expenditure, 1.7. That is typical for this year. So no, nothing unusual with this treasury report. I wanted to give you what's coming down the road type of reports. Questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, and information for the board, you'll see some information there on executive content. So please read on that. That brings us to the superintendent's report.
All right, and I did upload the report for people to follow if they wish. And I included some pictures this time just because there's so many good things going on right now. So I'll just start in my report with the open house at the middle high school. Tremendous success. It was a sight to behold for those who were not in attendance. There was a real buzz in the building. I know Miss Lindsay said that in her 11 years in the district, she's never seen a parent turnout like we've had at this event. So that was fantastic. We had over a dozen community organizations that were in the foyer and strewn about the building, including Martha, who spoke, who was signing students up for Baking Club. We had the Educational Opportunity Fund, the library, the police station, myriad groups were in attendance. So it's certainly hard to attribute, to any single cause why the participation was so great. There were some things that were done that I think certainly made it easier for families. So everyone who attended, had dinner provided for them if they wished, and that dinner was served by our students. So special thanks to Eris and Harris Skanjanen, Gabriel Guerrero Ruiz, and Morgan Babor for their assistance in serving that up. Another novel aspect of open house this year was In previous years, we've noticed that students might come, but they may not circulate to all the classes. So this year, the staff all had raffle tickets. And when you went to a different classroom, you received a raffle ticket. And then you could put them in one of 20 or so jars for gift certificates around town. So that was the brainchild of Keith Clark and Teresa Lindsay. And it was a great success. You can see in the report, there's a picture of some of the areas that students could have gotten their raffle tickets, things like that. So all told, it was great. There was also some things that I know the board has expressed as important areas for the school to focus on. For example, we've talked a lot about safety controls for technology. So this was the first of several different attempts to get the word out to families. So our IT team presented in the middle high school library, and they shared resources from connectsafely.org, which is also on there, and it talks about all the different ways parents can modify their technology to ensure that their students are basically not being exposed to things that are harmful in any way, and putting limits on those, which was great. We also had Ms. Merrihew, who along with Mr. LaValle in the Industrial Tech Suite represents the tip of the spear of our innovative technology at the middle high school end. And you can see in the report, there's a picture of what Ms. Merrihew shared with parents. It's the mill that she has created, the Mobile Innovation Learning Lab, and all of the different technologies that we've acquired, either exclusively by the district or thanks to the town of North Elba's support of funds through the LEAF grant. All of these different robots and drones and VR and AR headsets and you name it, all of those items were on display, and parents had an opportunity to view them and also understand how their students are going to be able to utilize those. So excellent open house. Kudos to everyone who was involved with that. We've started our NWEA assessments and are essentially done, with the exception of a few students who may have been absent, in both math and ELA for all of our grade K through 11 students. So this is the first of 3 data points that we will take over the course of the year. And this Friday, we have a professional development half day for staff. That day will basically involve staff members learning how to read the reports and generate different reports with the first data point. And then having times to meet as grade levels teams to discuss, potential takeaways and trends from some of the data that they're seeing. So that has been a tremendous undertaking. Thanks to our students for the fidelity that they put in towards taking these assessments, to our staff for leading that, and particularly to Sarah Allen, Amanda Blacksmith, Laura Coffin, Teresa Lindsay, and Sonia Franklin, who have led the charge in implementing this this important initiative. So it's a part of our strategic initiative for the year under academic excellence. So I'm excited to be able to share the results of this work with the board at the end, but we have all 3 data points.
For the students that were absent, do they get caught up?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
So we have makeups as well. The only hiccup we've noticed in the system so far, because any system will rightly have those, is that you have to wait 24 hours after administration of the exam to compile a list of students who did not finish it. So we were in a lag day, I believe today for math, and so tomorrow we should have those numbers. But any student who wasn't, present will have a catch up for that. So. And our RTI leads, Amanda Blacksmith, Laura Coffin, they assist in that scheduling piece. Our Woods program continued this year with the departure of our STREAM program students. They left yesterday. This is presently composed of 10th grade students. So they are roughing it in these fine conditions right now. And they were blessed with a better than anticipated day yesterday. So we will say that. But it was really just the several elements coming together all at once, which was really nice. On Monday when they left, the small bus was used for this. So that was an addition that has allowed greater flexibility for us. The STREAM program was an initiative that started last year to provide more hands-on experiential learning for kids. So these are the students involved, and the Woods program was designed to have our students have greater connection to the pristine wilderness around them. So the confluence of those three things was pretty cool to see happen out of the gate. So we wish those students well, and thank you to Mr. Baker for undertaking his second journey into the woods, and Ms. Boslett for taking her first. We had college night at the Hub on Sunday, which was another great success. This was an event that was planned by Connie Hamaker in the guidance office, but also in participation with community schools. So the event took place at the Northwood Hub on Main Street. There were roughly 60 guests total, 30 of whom were our students. Once again, Ms. Hamaker said it was the best attendance for an event she's seen since she's been in the district. So we like hearing that. And thanks to Connie, thanks to David McCulley for organizing the event, also to Stephen Reed for presenting to students, and last but not least, to Northwood's Mike Mayer and Tom Broderick for the use of the Hub. So good partnership and good results. And there's a picture there you can see of some of our attendees at the event. Presently, Sonia Franklin, Sarah Allen, Amy Gotham, and Jen Tuggy are in Saratoga for a 2-day refresher on the TCIS training that we have embedded into our school. So this training will enable the 4 of them to act as turnkey trainers for our staff. So TCIS basically is a framework for staff to de-escalate students, recognize when students are having a difficult time, and gives us a system to handle any difficult situations behaviorally in a classroom with grace and safety for students. So thank you to all of those individuals for undertaking that training again. We also had some great leadership in our CSEA unit. On Friday of this week, Kelson Thompson, one of our drivers, will be providing bus monitor pre-certification training for all of our teaching assistants. So thanks to Kelson for leading in that, and to Nikki Corson, our transportation director, and Sarah Allen, our director of PBS, for organizing all of the bus monitor coverage, which is an undertaking, as those of you knew that situation surely know. We've had some assemblies. So at the elementary school today, Macy Tarleton from the OTC came and presented about the life of an Olympian and the characteristics it takes to be a bobsled athlete. So it was nice to see that happen. Thanks to Coakley Hardware for sponsoring that event. Appreciate that. And in just another few days, the elementary students will also have another assembly. The Seagull Festival Opera will present The Ugly Duckling for our students. So thanks to Sonia Franklin for coordinating that opportunity. And the bobsled athlete coming was the brainchild of our new hire, Mackenzie Patinella, in PE at the elementary school. So she's hitting the ground running and bringing a lot of great opportunities to our school within a matter of weeks. So that's a great sign. And just last but not least, our students in 2nd grade had their monthly farm to school program. This is in partnership with Cornell Cooperative Extension. This took place today. And yesterday, the elementary school started their clubs. We have a Lego club, chorus, and band for students in grades 3 through 5. So lots of good things happening.
And will the IT team, will there be any other presentations on internet safety?
Yes.
Okay.
We're planning a few different initiatives. One is still an in-house, but also just some communication using Parent Square just to get
Okay.
things to our families to utilize.
Great.
Any other questions for Tim? All right. 4A was in consent. Brings us to personnel. Recommended action, approve the items below which are included in the personnel consent agenda. 5B, appointment of extracurricular activity coordinators for the 2023-24 school year. 5C, maternity leave request, and 5D, long-term teaching assistant. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Will Colleen?
1 second. Sorry, I was slow on that one. Okay.
Any changes? Discussion? Please vote.
Seven yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, thanks to Candace Kiss and congratulations in joining us for the rest of the year in support of our ELL population as a teaching assistant. And thank you to all of our extracurricular activity coordinators for their leadership with our students and the various clubs that we provide.
6A was in consent. So that brings us to 6B, Veterans Exemption Resolution, recommend action, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the adoption of the alternative veterans exemption as per the attached. Suppose I should read that. When was the meeting that we had the hearing?
It's attached.
Oh, is it? I got a Word doc that still has blanks.
Do you want me to, do you want my hard copy?
I would love.
Don't know this.
I was just gonna like riff, I guess, fill in the blanks as I read. Yeah. We'll do a little
Put
bit.
a little rap to it.
Yeah, a little
A little blocks.
school policy, tax law, improv.
I gotta be good.
Go wrong. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't read this. One. That's just. All right. The Board of Education of the Lake Placid Central School District at a meeting held on the 19th day of September 23 adopted the following resolution by majority vote. Whereas pursuant to the real property tax law section 458A, the school district desires to offer a school tax exemption on the primary residence of eligible veterans residing within the school district. And whereas on August 15th, 2023, after providing statutorily required notice, a public hearing was conducted by the school district to solicit input and to hear all persons interested in the partial real property tax exemption of the assessed value of the primary residence owned by a qualified veteran. And now therefore be it resolved that the school district hereby adopts the alternative veterans exemption at level K, permitting exemptions of 50% for wartime veterans and additional 10% for combat veterans and 50% of the veterans disability rating as determined by the Veterans Administration or Department of Defense who sustained a service-related disability pursuant to the following maximum exemption amounts. I'll skip over the table. I won't read each cell. But be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its filing with Essex County, shall be available to eligible veterans for the 2024-25 school tax year and shall continue until rescinded or amended by resolution of the Board of Education.
I move it.
Thank you. Second, Brian. Thank you. And any discussion, comments? Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to make a couple of comments on this, partly for historical reasons, partly for personal reasons. With maybe the exception of Karen, most of you don't realize virtually the same resolution came before this board 9 years ago, in 2014. We had the public hearing. This set of chairs were filled with a platoon of uniformed men and women, all advocating or supporting of the proposal. We came to vote on it. In actuality, it was exactly this same month, 9 years ago. I was one of the ones that strongly advocated we not pass the resolution. My arguments were prepared in a prepared statement that I read before the board that were incorporated into the minutes. But a lot of these things kind of hung up on something that's also this. It says the residents of eligible veterans. If one digs down below the 100,000-foot level and looks at the legislation that supported our being able to make the proposal, and also looking into some of the definitions that the armed services had for types of discharges, I saw that there were two glaring problems. So although the resolution was very well intended, I think when it got to the implementation, it it was a very unfair and unjust proposal.
Be specific about that.
Yes, I can't thank Mr. Burns. At that time, this is 9 years ago. If you look at the underlying resolutions, eligible veterans did not include veterans of the Afghanistan war. It included everybody previous to that. So all those people that were in that 20-year war were not part of being able to get exemptions. The other is that it said that people who had an honorable discharge would be able to get an exemption. At that time, people who were gay and lesbian, men and women, were usually given a general discharge or a other than honorable. So therefore, the proposal would exclude all people who were kind of let loose for their own services for being gay and lesbian. So I felt that that was, again, the reason for my voting against it. I felt that it was very well conceived, well intended, but it was an unfair and unjust presentation. I read that to the board. There were a couple other things that I mentioned. It turned out that the vote of this board at that time turned out to be 3-3-1. In other words, 3 were for it, 3 were against it, and there was 1 abstention. So that means it did not carry. So fast forward 9 years. If you look at the underlying resolution, legislation supporting this proposal, veterans of the Afghanistan war are included as one of the categories of quote, eligible veterans. Also, there's been changes in state and federal rules allowing people who were discharged in the past, who got general or other than honorable discount by reason of sexual persuasion. They have a way out to get their exemption upgraded for not only this, but for other benefits. Also, all of those types of discharges are no longer allowed by law. In other words, you cannot be ousted, discharged from the service by virtue of a less than normal, that's a bad choice of words. If you're gay and lesbian or something other than just straight. So in other words, even though it seems like this is the same proposal, all the underlying reasons for that I was against it 9 years ago, as were 2 other members of the board, have been taken care of, to me, in the right direction.
So now you support it.
Now I support it,
Excellent.
but I don't want to be accused of being a flip-flop.
Oh, no, no. 9 years is a long time.
So that was the personal reason why I wanted to mention that. But I thought you might be interested in this from a historical perspective.
So the 9 years ago was unjust to some people, but it was still just to other people.
Well, that's what I said. It created winners and losers.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. I didn't think that that was fair.
Okay, well, we're here today. That's wonderful.
So it's been improved drastically.
So in 2023, we can expect you to flip back on all your decisions.
So we're tracking your voting for 9 years
That's right.
ago.
We're
So
going to ask for the minutes from those meetings.
I have a copy.
what did John do then?
Tim was, I don't know how he found it, but he did.
Wow.
I am a
Did
historian
a
by
Google
nature.
search.
Other things they can't cover,
Yeah,
something to worry
that's all
about.
that he let me know about.
Again, test.
So
Board
that-
records are forever.
That's right.
Wow.
I can't turn that off. It's.
That's all right. All right, any other
Does not go
comments
off.
or discussion? If not, then please make sure you vote.
Seven, yes.
Thank you very much.
I was one of those.
That's how it's.
Just in case it isn't clear.
In 3 years, whoever you're running against, they might pull it out.
For the
They're
audio.
like, flip flopper, you know?
YouTube.
In 9 years, who knows what he's gonna say? Yeah. No, I'm gonna read the first section. All right, so the next is the firefighter ambulance workers exemption resolution. Recommend action motion to be adopted, the resolution authorizing partial real property tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance service workers as per the attached. I'm just, if it's, if I could get
Yeah,
everyone's
first
permission,
paragraph.
I'm gonna stop at the first now therefore be resolved, because I feel like that encompasses what we need to say. I just wanted to John's point, when we vote on these things, if we say them out loud, no one can say they didn't know 9 years from now that they didn't know what they were voting on. So I'll just read I'll give us a taste, the cliff notes as it. The Board of Education of the Lake Placid Central School District at a meeting held on the 19th day of September 2023, adopted the following resolution by majority vote. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 670 of the laws of 2022, effective December 9th, 2022, the state real property tax law was amended by adding a new 466A authorizing local governments, including school districts, to enact by resolution a 10% partial real property tax exemption of the assessed value of primary residence owned by a qualified enrolled member of an incorporated volunteer fire company, fire department, or incorporated volunteer ambulance service that serves a city, town, or village where the school district is located. And whereas the intent of this resolution is to permit a partial real property tax exemption for qualified enrolled members of said emergency services organizations for real property taxes imposed by the school district. And whereas on August 15th, 2023, after providing the statutorily required notice, a public hearing was conducted by the school district to solicit input and to hear all persons interested in the partial real property tax exemption of the assessed value of primary residence owned by a qualified enrolled member of said emergency service organizations that serve the school district. And now therefore be it resolved that the primary residential real property located in the school district that is owned by the enrolled member of a volunteer fire company, volunteer fire department, or incorporated volunteer ambulance service that provides services within the city, town, or village in which the school district is located shall be exempt from taxation and assessments levied by the school district to the extent of 10% of the assessed value of such property, exclusive of special assessments subject to the requirements set forth in this herein. I'll stop there. That's a lot. Lawyers are paid by the word, right, Ron?
I know this. Goes on and on.
Excellent. Okay, so do I have a motion?
I will
Thank you, John. Calling you in a second. There we go. Any discussion? Comments? If not, then vote.
I will abstain for the vote, because I remember the volunteer fire department, this would benefit me, so.
I think it's wonderful that we're able to do it, these groups.
Yeah.
Because it gives, it's time.
6 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone in those organizations that serve our community. It's a very small gesture, but one we gladly do. So, thank you.
Kudos to the board too. This was a methodical, I mean, it started with a discussion last year. There was canvassing of the voters through an exit poll, analysis of that, asking important questions, which led us to the Office of Assessment, which allowed us to leverage a tremendous amount of knowledge from Deb Mueller. So excellent work for the board.
I mean, this is analogous to the last one. I mean, you gotta get down into the weeds to really find out what exactly you're voting on. Sometimes it's not what you think.
Yeah,
They talk about potential reimbursement for body armor and munitions that I had to carry for the last couple months because I got bombarded with firehouse today. Just wondering, you know. Yeah, I got my goal. I did. Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone. 6D and 6E were in consent. Brings us to our next for the good cause. Do we have any?
You do know.
Excellent. That brings us to the adjournment phase of the meeting. Next meeting date and location, we will be in Wilmington, October 3rd. We'll also have a hearing on the district safety plan. Time.
Do we get the big room or are we gonna be in the office again?
It's very true. Were you here for the office meeting? Yeah, you were here, right?
Yeah.
You don't forget.
All around the table.
That was very, very close.
Fireside chat.
It was awful.
Yeah. Be the first board meeting where we have to be like, no, we only need quorum. We don't want anyone over that because we can't fit them around the table. I guess it'll just be a surprise. Maybe it'll be outdoors. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a nice day. They do have that nice covered picnic area. So. All right. Any old agenda topics? Any new agenda topics? All right, that brings us to a proposed executive session. Recommended action motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's evaluation. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Colleen, too. Thank you, Ryan, for a second. All those in favor? Aye. There we go. So we will enter in executive session at 6:53 p.m.